guys, welcome back to another episode of the Intersection of Jesus and Culture. I am your host, Mo Flanagan, and I look forward to talking to you about the many different ways that we can see and experience Jesus in the world we live in. It's all about tuning our eye gates and our ear gates to be able to experience him everywhere, to be able to catch glimpses of him throughout our day, through things we watch, whether it's TV shows, movies, scrolling, being outside in nature, or things we listen to like music, or maybe birds chirping, or just different things throughout our day. Learning how to incorporate him, not just at set times or set days of the week, but every day, all day. And guys, we are right dab in the middle of our planet series. And so far we have discussed all about being the light. We've talked about why pruning is necessary. We talked about soil conditions. And today I wanted to talk to you about something else. I wanted to talk to you about seeds and environments, right? So, did you guys know that every seed has the opportunity to produce something, but not all seeds produce something? Let that sit in for a second. You can have, last week we talked about planting in good soil, right? Did you know that you can actually plant a seed in good soil, but yet it still doesn't produce anything? Case in point. So I started a garden last year. I'm a recent plant mom, so I think I can do everything, right? Not. Anyway, I started a garden last year and it was doing so well in the house, but then when I took it outside and I was planting things, it didn't do too well. I learned that things like potatoes and tomatoes don't go well together. And guess what happened? I ruined the whole harvest that I was producing in the first place. That's because our environments matter. And in case you're like, Mel, what is our environment? Well, our environment basically is who we're around. Who or what do we allow in? What about our insides? What about our heart posture? Do we have a rigid or a fixed heart posture? Or do we have a one that's adaptable to change? I always thinking like fixed and growth mindsets, right? What does our environment say about us? Think about that. Another cool thing that I learned about seeds is that every seed is designed to reproduce itself, right? Our environments have such an effect on us that it will determine whether or not we produce a good seed or a bad seed. Someone once said to me years ago, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And I was like, dang, that's deep. So if you were to go through your phone and maybe look at the last 5 persons that you text, right? The last 5 people you text, what would they say about your future? Would it be positive? Would it be negative, right? That saying reminded me of a verse that I read in 1 Corinthians 15:33, which states that bad company corrupts good character, right? One of the things when I read a verse like that, I always say to myself and I always encourage others as they're reading the Bible, don't just read the Bible, but really read the Bible. Allow the Bible to read back to you. So if you allowed it to read back to you, you would pause at a verse like bad company corrupts good character. You would think about it and say, let me ask myself some questions. What kind of environment am I in right now? Because let's be real, our environments are constantly changing as we go to new jobs or move to new neighborhoods or we're just around different circles of friends. Our environments change. So question, what environment am I in? Is it life producing or is it like a weed? Is it choking the life out of me, right? Think about that. And if you thought about it and you're like, yeah, I don't know. I don't like this environment and something gotta go. That's the case. I got good news. God can fix that. However, it does require some participation on our end. We can't just say, oh God, fix the environment, it's done. No, we have to do some things too. It takes active participation. That's us daily working on it, right? And just like that seed, when it's planted, it's buried. For all we know, it's just under the ground. We don't know when or what's going on under the ground. All we know is we see the shoot when it comes up, right? But what you didn't know is that when it's underground, it goes through a process where pressure is being applied to it, where it's getting some agitation from the soil. Its environment around is like crushing in on it, which is forcing that seed to actually burst open for life to germinate out of it, right? And just like that seed, we also need to be planted. We need to be planted in his word. We need to allow his word to identify us. And we also need to be planted in prayer, asking him to reveal parts of our environments that we need to let go. Warning, this part may hurt, right? any kind of change is never good. So at times when it happens, like none of us really say, hey, I want to change today, right? Change is always uncomfortable. However, change is always needed at times too. So if it's hard and if it does hurt, you say, okay, God, give me strength. Help me have the strength to cut this tie. Whether it's a bad relationship, a bad friendship, whether it's needing to change the music we listen to, or the type of things that we watch as we scroll, or whether it's the type of things we watch as we watch TV. If that's having an effect on our environment, maybe we need to ask God to help us to cut those parts out, right? If our environment is really, really, really bad, right? It may warrant us to fast. And if you're new to following Jesus, you may be like, Mel, what's a fast? A fast is basically a form of denying yourself and choosing Jesus over your will, choosing Jesus' way over your way, right? And what I mean by that is basically like for biblically, fasting meant to like abstain from certain foods or drinks. Nowadays, we fast also from social media. It's basically anything that we're like, oh, we can't live without. Or anything that we're like going to, if you wake up in the morning, first thing you're going to your phone and you can't go throughout the day without your phone, you may need to fast for your phone after a certain time, just to kind of give yourself a break to actually draw closer to God. I always say fasting is a way of denying our way for Yahweh. And Yahweh is God. Yahweh's, right? God's way above ours, right? So guys, with that being said, we are at the end of another episode of The Intersection of Jesus and Culture. And this one is no different when it comes to my B statements. So the B statement for today would be, be seated. Be seated in good soil in the right environment. And like I said earlier, if you're not in a good environment, pray and ask God to replace your environment, to send you godly community. That's one thing I always pray for as well, because we can't be the smartest person in the room. We also can't, we need to also have people to pour into us as we're pouring into others. So guys, with that being said, hope to talk to you soon. Alrighty, bye-bye.